What's good, y'all? Derrick Jaxn here. So I got a question recently that I actually get quite a bit. It was a woman asking D, how do you know whenever a guy is genuine, like sincerely has you on his mind when he's telling you these things like, oh, you know, you're always on my mind, I'm thinking about you. How do you know whenever he's being for real? So I'm gonna tell you some signs, but first let me be very honest with you. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Like, it's a bad thing whenever it's obsessive, it's controlling, it's a part of his insecurities, he has nothing going on in his life, so yeah, you're on his mind. But there are 7 signs in how to know whenever you're genuinely on a man's mind in a good way, in a way that's going to translate into value into the relationship. The first way to know that you're genuinely on that man's mind in a good way is whenever he's constantly looking for ways to make your life a little easier, you know, not carry you through life and things like that. I'm just talking about as a man, when we're in touch with our masculine nature, you know, in the correct proportion that we're supposed to be, we're problem solvers, we're resolution finders. You know, we cannot just hear about something not going as well as it needs to go, especially for somebody that we care about, and not try to insert ourselves in a valuable way. So you may be stressed out, you may be overwhelmed. A man that genuinely has you on his mind is going to maybe get you a daily planner or a journal or something that, you know, just allow himself to be that place that you can vent and lean on, you know, on a regular basis without you having to ask him. He's going to try and be a problem solver in your life. Now, of course, you have every right to say, hey, I don't need you to come and save me, I'm my own hero. But I'm just saying, as far as his efforts, that's what you'll see evidence of. The second sign that you are on a man's mind pretty regularly is whenever he tells you to let him know whenever you've made it home safely after, say, you guys were hanging out or a date, and it wasn't rhetorical. You know, the 30 minutes, supposed to be a 30-minute drive, 45 minutes, an hour later, he's texting, he's calling. That's not a man who's psychopathic. That's a man who has your safety as a top priority. That's a man who's actually thinking about you, because a lot of guys and some women will say that kind of thing and really be asleep 10 minutes later. When a man is genuinely thinking about you in a good way, he needs to know that you're okay. He needs to know that you're safe, especially late at night in situations where there could be some risk, all right? The third way to know that a guy genuinely has you on his mind is whenever he's making stops for himself, errands for himself. There's some evidence that he thought about you, like he'll come home with something for you. And I'm talking about, like, okay, he goes to Home Depot, he was going for a buzz saw or something like that, but he remembered that you liked the M&Ms with the peanuts in them when he was at the checkout. So he comes back and he got some M&Ms for you and he didn't even think nothing of it. That's because you're so integrated into his mind, like it's not a chore for him. It's not something that you have to ask for. He's not waiting for you to ask. Like, you're not a last priority or an afterthought. You're just a part of how he looks at the world. I know that sounds kind of dreamy and kind of weird, but it's true. And there's so many guys who this is just business as usual for them. That's how you know whenever a guy really thinks about you as well. The fourth sign is whenever he brings you into his interest throughout the day, right? So memes that he finds interesting, movies that he might want to watch, books that he might want to read, something that happens whenever he's out at the grocery store. You know, he may send you a picture or record it or something like that. You know, that kind of man is thinking about you, but don't necessarily expect 24/7 access, because if a man has anything going on about himself, he's not going to be able to talk to you that often. I'm talking about literally throughout the day, and hopefully you ain't got your whole life revolving around him either. But I'm saying at least once or twice a day, you know, a couple of days out the week, you'll notice that he brings you in. That's because a man who genuinely is thinking about you and has you on his mind as he's experiencing life, again, this is not something he has to force. He wants to experience it with you. In today's age, that's going to happen a lot of times through technology, okay? So the fifth sign that a man genuinely has you on his mind on a regular basis in a good way is whenever he creates space in his schedule in advance, even if you have nothing planned. Now, we've talked in the past about, you know, spare time versus made time. And I would just want to say this: always honor whenever a man gives you his time and he makes that time in his schedule, because that's a sacrifice and there's no more valuable resource to anybody other than time. But I'm talking about even the next level. You know, on Friday or Saturday, there was nothing planned, but he blocked off a certain time just in case you would be back in town in enough time to see him. Nothing planned yet. No comedy thing coming up, no movie coming up, no restaurant he got booked. But just to make sure that there will be some opportunity for you two to spend time, he creates and he protects that time in advance. That's a man who has you on his mind on the regular. The sixth one is kind of similar. You know, weeks in advance. A man who thinks about you weeks in advance, months in advance, he's preparing for those big dates. I'm not talking about he just remembered that your birthday, remembered the anniversary, remembered the holiday, but you know, he saved up for that trip to go and see your family across the country weeks, months in advance. You got a surgery coming up. He already done requested time off from his job to make sure he could be there with you as you heal. That's when a man is thinking about you. The seventh way that you know, and I see this mostly in marriage, but the seventh sign that a man has you on his mind on the regular is whenever something may come in and obstruct what you guys normally do, coming into your flow, you know, of how you guys normally operate and spend time with each other. He checks with you first before he confirms whatever that obligation may be. What I mean is, let's say on Saturdays you guys do brunch, but his homies want to hoop this Saturday out of the blue, right? Before he says, all right, bet, it's a go, he's coming to you and he's saying, okay, my homies want to hoop or whatever. How does that work with your schedule that we do this thing that we normally do another time? Don't get that confused with you got a man who don't want to live his life, or he's got to check in to get permission from you to live his life or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when a man really values the time, when a man is really thinking of you and the time that he's going to spend with you, he's going to make sure that he protects that. He's going to protect that. You're not going to constantly get put on the back burner, you know, whatever happens with her is whatever happens with her. She's the variable, but my homies is the constant. My mama is the constant. My job is the constant. The only thing that's going to be a constant above you for a man who genuinely cares about you is God. That's it. If you're hearing me say any of these things and you're thinking to yourself, there's no man on earth who exists like that, that's a unicorn, this is unrealistic, maybe you even got some resentment that's kind of starting to stir up for me, just at hearing this, let me just say that may be evidence that you need healing. And I'm not trying to invalidate you, but pain changes all of us. And the only reason why you would think these very real examples, I'm talking about, these are examples of dudes that I know personally, outside of me, take me out of it. Guys that I know personally, this is just how they show up. This ain't nothing to them. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking at any of these things and saying, well, that never happens to anybody, that only happens in movies, that's evidence. That's one of the indicators that you may need healing, because pain has changed you and now it's trying to protect you from ever having that hope. That hope in a man that could treat you like this as a priority and be this thoughtful. The hope that somebody took from you by treating you so opposite to this seems like a fairy tale or something like that. But the good news is there's a way to reverse that. There's a way to fix that, and you need to. Why do you need to? Because there's going to be a man, if this is what you genuinely want, is a man who has these types of characteristics. He's going to come into your life. He's going to be done with the games. He's going to want to give you his all, but it's going to be very difficult for you to experience that. In fact, you may self-sabotage. That's what happens whenever you don't heal. You self-sabotage. And what I talk about in my book, Heal Together Without Hurting Each Other, you know, women in this position, they may get a man who's the equivalent of, say, filet mignon. But whenever they bite into his love, what they get from that is like sardines out the can. You know, they're not able to truly experience it, appreciate it, or even reciprocate it. So sometimes they end up losing a man. A man gets burnt out. A man gets discouraged. Long story short, because I don't want to go too far in depth, I actually talk about it in great detail in my book, Heal Together Without Hurting Each Other. So if you want to get that and get the roadmap so many women have taken to come from that to the absolute most healed version of themselves, click the link down in the caption or wherever you see it, maybe in the bio. But the moral of the story is this: it's nice when a man loves you in terms of his feelings that he has for you and his emotions, and you're in his heart and he expresses it. But we all know actions speak louder than words, you know, but I always say patterns speak the truth. So when a man has a thought pattern that is so ingrained in you, like on the regular, what's going to happen is he's also going to have a pattern of how he lives that expresses his love through his actions on the regular. So that you don't end up another woman who's saying, hey, my man says that he loves me, but I don't see no evidence. I don't see no proof. When a man has you on his mind on the regular, the proof will be obvious that he loves you. So those are just my thoughts. So y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Again, Heal Together Without Hurting Each Other, my new book, is available now at the link down in the caption. Go ahead and get it ASAP. I'll holler at y'all later. Y'all be good. Peace.